Today, if people on the street were asked to list the 5 countries they would like to visit, the probability of Canada being among the top 5 choices is extremely high. Canada is a massive country located at the northernmost part of the North American continent. When I say massive, I mean it has an incredibly vast land area that is hard to fathom. The size of this land area is exactly 9,984,000 square kilometers, nearly a gigantic country of almost 10 million square kilometers. That's Canada. Therefore, in terms of land area, it is the second largest country in the world. The largest country by land area is Russia, with 17 million square kilometers. However, don't think that human habitation dominates this massive land area entirely. A significant portion of the country's territory is made up of forests and mountains. Approximately 40 million people, forming the country's population, are mostly settled in the southern regions. The untouched nature of the northern area is preserved and off-limits for development. Furthermore, Canada's claim to the largest area is overshadowed by Russia's 17 million square kilometers. Yet, do not assume that human habitation covers the entirety of this vast land area. In fact, a large part of the country's territory is composed of forests and mountains. Approximately 40 million people, constituting the majority of the country's population, are mostly settled in the southern regions. The northern area, with its pristine nature, is protected and not open to development. On the other hand, Canada is not easily comparable to other countries in terms of land area. This is because the contemporary definition of a powerful state is measured not by the land area it possesses but by technological and industrial capabilities. Therefore, Canada is often compared to the United States. Moreover, Canada shares the world's longest international border with the United States, stretching 891 kilometers. One notable detail is that Canadians are more culturally connected to the British and French heritage than to U.S. citizens. Indeed, this country was founded by immigrants from British and French societies. If you go there today and immerse yourself in daily life, you may witness that people predominantly speak English and French. These 2 languages are officially recognized in Canada. Due to substantial immigration, it is not realistic to speak of a specific Canadian ethnic identity. Moreover, before the French and British, the indigenous tribal communities such as the First Nations and Inuit inhabited these lands. It is assumed that these communities migrated from Siberia to North America during the glacial period, connecting Siberia and North America through terrestrial links. Canada's multicultural national structure keeps the country away from nationalist or authoritarian stances. For example, in Canada, political agendas are not driven by nationalism, religious values, or certain spiritual values related to the country. This is because there is little inclination towards these issues in the country. In general surveys related to the country, it is revealed that 1/4 of the total population is not affiliated with any religion. The remaining 75% is largely affiliated with Christianity. People want to see actions based on living conditions. Therefore, the determination of days is based on interests that directly affect the lives of people, encompassing all ethnic groups and beliefs. For instance, the largely free healthcare services, legalization of same-sex marriages, or keeping the annual inflation always in single digits. For example, in 2022, the annual inflation rate in Canada was 6.3%. By the end of 2023, the goal is to bring this inflation down to the single digits. On the other hand, contrary to popular belief, Toronto is not the capital of Canada today. Toronto, being the largest and most popular city in Canada, is often mistaken for the capital by foreigners. The capital of Canada, Ottawa, is located in the southeastern part of the country. Canada has many positive and negative aspects. So, let's take a deep dive into life in Canada. Firstly, if you are accustomed to a warm climate and have always been in temperate climate zones throughout your life, the climate in Canada can significantly affect your enjoyment. more than half of the year in the country is quite cold. In fact, Canada doesn't really have 4 distinct seasons. In cities like Toronto, cold winters can last up to 7 months each year. Therefore, anyone considering living in Canada must be willing to accept the cold weather conditions. However, keep in mind that Canada is a vast country divided into provinces. Living conditions, such as rent, grocery expenses, and climate, can vary between provinces. For example, 2 families living at opposite ends of Canada may experience winters of different severities in the same month. Due to the prolonged cold periods in the country, families take smart measures. For instance, before the long winters begin, every Canadian family stocks up on enough provisions and cleaning supplies to last them. They call this winter shopping. Similarly, they start buying winter clothes in the summer months because it's unpredictable when winter will set in exactly. One positive aspect of the country is that immigration laws are very transparent and open. If you want to earn money and build a career but are concerned about facing racism and ethnic discrimination abroad, in Canada, these things don't matter. As mentioned earlier, even the founders of the country were once immigrants. If you believe you are good at your job, your skin color, religion, or ethnicity holds no significance in the acceptance process. On the contrary, immigrants in Canada often form stronger bonds, helping each other in times of difficulty. In terms of working conditions, Canada offers more social privileges than many European countries and even the United States. For instance, working hours do not exceed 8 hours, and if they do, you can receive overtime pay for each additional hour. If you have a wedding or childbirth, you can take several months of paid leave. However, if you are seeking a country that goes beyond the understanding of a social state to a lifestyle filled with entertainment and liveliness, Canada may not fully meet your expectations. This is because Canada is not as active in the entertainment sector as European countries. The entertainment preferences of people in Canada are more inclined towards outdoor activities like hiking in untouched forests and cycling in parks. In other words, people spend more time in their own company. One reason for this is, of course, the high number of immigrants and their inability to create broad circles in a short time. Nevertheless, people in Canada are extremely happy because the general level of education, culture, and income in society is above a certain standard. Therefore, there is no atmosphere of chaos and insecurity in society. People can go out to the streets and park safely and confidently. It is even safer than in the United States. In Canada, while walking on the streets in the U.S., you might suddenly find yourself in the middle of a theft or ethnic conflicts. Also, the Canadian government is working on a new law against individual armament. Indeed, the high level of prosperity and law in almost every province in the country has minimized crime rates. So, we can describe Canada as an extremely safe country. But does this make life there perfect in general? I think it might not be enough because, regardless of the number of zeros in your salary, life is extremely expensive in Canada, my friends. Just as life is expensive, taxes paid to the government are also quite high. You can be sure that taxes are spent directly for the benefit of the public. Moreover, this situation has ensured that the state treasury is high. For example, if you are taxed for natural disasters such as tsunamis and floods, they cover all the damages of citizens in any disaster. Or during the pandemic, it was known that Canada provided a monthly assistance of 2,000 Canadian dollars to every citizen who became unemployed. Therefore, Canadian people, even if they pay high taxes, are sure that these taxes will come back to them as a service. However, to elaborate on the tax issue, in Canada, the increase in taxes is directly proportional to your income, which can be personally annoying. Moreover, the lowest tax brackets start from the 20s and can go up to the 45s. So, if you work in an important position in a highly qualified company, you need to come to this country knowing that more than a quarter of your salary will be deducted as tax every month. If you hear someone leaving or considering leaving Canada for another country, they will most likely complain about the excess taxes. However, there is also a way to leave their country and avoid high taxes. People who do very well in this country eventually leave their jobs and start their own businesses. Once they start a business, they open a company for themselves and show almost everything, from personal market expenses to technology expenses, as if it were done for the business. Then they show these expenses as business expenses and deduct them from taxes. But you might say, I can't deal with opening a company. As long as I have a peaceful, happy, and secure life and social benefits at my workplace, I'm content. Therefore, if you accept all the desired taxes, there is hardly anyone who goes to Canada and cannot find a job. Friends, finding a job in this country is really easy. And you don't even need to have developed yourself to a very high degree. There is always a labor shortage in almost every field of work. Since the country is extremely large and productivity is equally high, with its population of 35 to 40 million people, they cannot keep up with so much work, it is fair to say. In this sense, Canada is the country where the definition of the land of opportunities is most accurately made for those who want to start from scratch. Depending on the province, if you receive a minimum wage between $2,500 and $3,000 Canadian dollars, you can easily cover your rent, bills, and grocery expenses. The reason I say this is that Canada does not pay much attention to your qualification in the country you are coming from. In other words, your qualified work experience in another country does not guarantee that you will start with $4,000 to $5,000 directly in Canada. When you make a serious job application to a company, they pay attention to two things to evaluate you professionally. Firstly, they check if you have received any education in Canada on your CV. Secondly, whether you have any work experience in Canada. If you don't have both of these criteria, the accumulations you have gained from less developed countries are not considered sufficient for Canada, and the amount of your salary starts at the lowest level. In the end, it is necessary to gain experience there for a few years to advance in a professional profession and earn good money in Canada. Monthly salaries in the country are determined on an hourly wage basis and vary from province to province. For example, in the Ontario province where the most popular city, Toronto, is located, the minimum hourly wage is $15. If you are an engineer in your mid-20s, your average hourly wage is around $40. People generally work 37.5 hours a week, not 40 hours. For example, a young engineer in Canada can earn a gross income of $6,000 per month. If you do not use the holiday money given for annual leave in the summer and save it, a standard person in Canada can earn a gross income of $81,000 within a year. In terms of net income, with a standard job, you can make an annual income of over $60,000. Rent for 1+1 and 2+1 houses in places like Toronto in Canada ranges from $1,500 to $2,000. However, at this point, even if people earn $5,000, by sharing the house with another person, they can reduce the rent expenses to half, up to $700 to $800. This is another way to save money in Canada. The concept of monthly salary in the country is almost non-existent. Because in provinces like Toronto, people are paid every 2 weeks or every week. In other words, people don't have to wait a month for the money to reach their hands. In conclusion, Canada is one of the most sought-after countries in the world, offering excellent conditions in terms of career and prosperity.